Hello and welcome back to the She Gallery Show. You are live with us tonight with Green Card veterans. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, yes.
And tonight is a very special segment. We are here with President, Founder of Green Card Veterans, Carlos Luna. And we are also here with Miguel Perez, who was a deported veteran that Green Card Veterans helped bring back. This is a very touching story, very special segment because we are learning how one story inspired an organization to be formed that is truly special. We're going to learn a little bit more about how this was brought on. And please remember that you are with us live tonight, and you're welcome to join this conversation by calling us at 312-738-1060. That phone number will also be found on the bottom of the screen throughout the segment. We also have some very special announcements that we will share with you towards the end of this segment. So why don't we get started with a little bit of a background for Green Card veterans. Miguel Perez, can we start with you? You want to talk to us a little bit about your background?
Yes. Once again, thank you for having us, Dulce. Well, my name is Miguel Perez. I was born in Guadalajara, state of Jalisco, Mexico, and I came to the city of Chicago at the age of 7. My grandfather's a natural-born citizen from Colorado. So in the mid-'80s, my father decided to migrate and come to the U.S. For a Chicago soccer team that no longer exists. He was offered a job, so that's why we moved to Chicago. I grew up on the near west side. I went to grammar school, high school here, a little bit of college. And in 2001, I decided to join the military because I wanted to do something for the country. I come from a long line of military family on my dad's side and my mother's side. So that's what I always wanted to do. And when I saw the opportunity, I decided that I was going to do the right thing, the patriotic thing. And I signed up for the military. And I ended up being deployed to Afghanistan in response to the 9/11 attacks. Wow. And I did 2 tours in 2002, the first one, and 2003. I served with, I was attached to Special Forces out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And after the military, I got into a little bit of trouble, and I ended up doing some time in prison, which that led to immigration picking me up, and I was ultimately deported to Mexico, where I spent a year and a half.
Wow. And did you know when you were walking out of jail that you were going to be deported?
Yes, I wasn't 100% sure because there was a lot of interventions on my behalf. So the actual date that I was walking out of prison, ICE happened to be at the door, but it wasn't a sure thing. We were still fighting it in court.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And then talk to us, Carlos, about your involvement with Miguel and how Green Card veterans ended up helping Miguel. Share a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So I served in the Navy from 2004 to 2009. I was a avionics electronics technician, worked on F-18 Super Hornets, and when that ended, when I came out in 2009, I learned firsthand what a recession was. I understood then how desperate people were for basic needs in terms of healthcare, things of that nature. And I managed to meet a veteran service officer who took the time to teach me in essence how to help others access some of the benefits that they were not readily able to access. And so I went on to become a community psychologist. I graduated from DePaul with my master's in 2016 when we learned, I say we, my community of veterans and myself learned about this veteran who was being deported after having served in Afghanistan. And we prided ourselves in being helpful to other veterans, accessing some of the care that they may have been lacking, but definitely needed. And we saw this as a perfect example of that. And we saw his deportation as a product of the systemic gaps that have been documented, well documented. And unfortunately, the only difference between a non-citizen immigrant veteran and a citizen veteran when they get themselves into trouble after the military service is the lack of a safety net, which is our community that citizen veterans are able to take advantage of. And so, this phenomenon really has come to light in terms of how it epitomizes the hypocrisy that we live in this country every day. We can see that just at the recent State of the Union address when the president brought Army veteran Tony Rankin. He served in the military in the 80s. From what I understand, he suffered from PTSD from his tour in Germany. And after several stints in prison, he was afforded access to a program that our president prided himself in these opportunity zones. The only two deported veterans who have been repatriated as of today were also in the gallery during that State of the Union address and suffered from arguably more severe combat-related trauma than one would incur in Germany during the 80s, and were not afforded that. And so we can see, there is a double standard for a lot of these veterans, and it's become very salient.
Mm-hmm. So what action did you take forth to be able to help Miguel Perez, and where exactly was Green Card Veterans born in this process?
Well, so Green Card Veterans really came into existence because we got involved with Miguel's case and
when you say we, who is we?
So we is I'll get there.
Okay.
It began with myself and another Marine, Mike Polagwachi, and a couple other veterans that attended a press conference held by Lincoln United Methodist Church and Pastor Emma Lozano, who is a huge community leader here in Chicago, whose actions have resonated across the country, and she was taking on this issue because it definitely relates with their ministry in immigration, but also her love for veterans. And through her guidance, we were able to learn about the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, which Green Card Veterans is a Chicago-based council of, and how we can utilize that platform of community members that stretch beyond our geographic limitations here in Chicago, to really be able to address this issue that is a national issue. And through her guidance and through the work with Sarah Walker and Cecilia Garcia, some of the other community leaders that have been big on this, we were able to help in their really help in supporting their guidance, really, in who it is that we need to talk about the facts of this, right? There is a lot of facts that occurred in Miguel's case that are found in research around trauma, around military transition, that they may not have had the tools to be well spoken in, but that's where veterans like myself and the other veterans who are veteran service officers, who are familiar with the limitations that veterans face in trying to access these forms of care, came in so that we can demonstrate where these gaps existed in Miguel's case and what it is that needed to be done to rectify the situation. And fortunately, we had people who listened.
So Emma Lozano, for those of you who don't know, she's a huge advocate for immigrants, for the community, like he was mentioning. She's part of the Lincoln United Methodist Church. She's highly involved in these cases. And she wrote an article about Miguel Perez. That is how you guys learned about Miguel Perez. Is that correct?
Yes, well, she was featured in an article by the Chicago Tribune.
Okay,
Correct.
so you were communicated by these means, and then you got a phone call from like your mom or somebody that said connect with them, and somehow you guys were able to connect, from what I understand. And then Emma, who holds this position with LULAC, who LULAC has been around for how long?
91 years.
91 years. So LULAC has been serving and advocating for immigrants since then. And here comes Carlos with these ideas, with these emotions, with these, details of everything that he learned from his experiences and has something to say. We can tell that he's a highly intellect with all these ideas that he knows that he can help. And he knows that from hands-on, from being in the military. So Emma provides this opportunity to branch off, and here comes Green Card Veterans. And then they come forth and help Miguel. And how was your relation? How were you able to help him, and what was your experience like?
Well, I learned, I was in ICE detention when I first learned about Green Card Veterans, and they came from my parents, from my mother and my father.
So these are strangers helping strangers.
Which are, his parents are original council members as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Lulek.
Yes, thank you, Lulek. So I called from the detention center one day, and my mother told me there's a group of veterans that just came to the church with Emma, and we are getting together, and we're going to see what we can do. But everybody's just going to use the resources and see what happens. And of course, Carlos was in the middle of everything and just started trying to drive through different avenues until he found the right exit out of this problem.
Mm-hmm. And right when Green Card Veterans started, now we're talking about just 3 years ago, February 17th just passed, just 3 years ago, you were able to bring back these veterans. What other success stories has Green Card Veterans had since it started just 3 short years ago? You've been before the Senate. How have you been able to, be before Congress in many ways and be able to speak and connect with all these politicians that have also been able to help Green Card Veterans, that were also able to help Miguel during this fight?
Well, I mean, if I learned anything from community psychology, is that even the small wins are wins, right? And Miguel's case was huge. It took a huge community effort. It took a lot of organizations really working in concert. It took a lot of work by an amazing attorney, Chris Bergen. It took just a lot of effort on behalf of people that to this day we wouldn't be able to fully recognize the contributions of them all. But essentially, what we have been able to do is utilize the 90 years that LULAC has been at the forefront of civil rights when it comes to our community, and really be able to enter into these domains where a lot of people aren't typically invited into. Again, here in Chicago, we have an outstanding community, a very veteran-friendly community, where people really understand the connection between military service, trauma, whether that's post or chronic trauma, and the avenues by which to correct a lot of our historical deficiencies as a country. So here in Chicago, we have, for instance, recently legalized cannabis, but we did so by making sure that the people that were negatively affected by it in the past were having their records expunged. Right? So there's a method to try to bring some equity to the people that were negatively impacted by these policies. And in this case, it's no different. Unfortunately, a lot of the cases where this exists do not have a pro bono Chris Bergen, do not have a community leader like Pastor Emma Lozano and her husband Slim, Pastor Slim Coleman, excuse me. They don't have the Governor J.B. Pritzker, who was willing to do the pardon necessary. So there's a lot of community level assets, because really that's what they are, that all worked in concert to be able to bring this person home and set a precedent for that. Because before that, drug offenses were not typically allowed to be considered for repatriation, to be repatriated because of the way that our immigration laws were written after '96.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. And the reason that, as I understand, the reason that Green Card veterans and LULAC was able to help and all these other people that took place in helping him come back, a lot of it had to do with legal aid, right?
Correct.
Laws are always in the center of this. And in first speaking with Carlos, he's like, I really don't want to get involved with politics. But there you are in front of Senate, like no matter what, you can't hide away from the politics and the legal aid that is needed. So something that we will touch on a little bit later is a fundraiser that we're working on together to help the rest of the deported veterans come back home. And it's veterans alone, we already know, yes, it's very friendly and people care about veterans, but does the government care about veterans? You see so many people that are homeless out in the streets that don't have the proper care once they've left the military. So these are American veterans. Now we're talking about deported veterans. And something that continues to come up in my conversations with the rest of the members from Green Card Veterans, the president with Miguel, is this need to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. Can you guys please go into greater detail about what it means to change the narrative?
Okay, well, our mission is to address appropriate policies at different levels by changing their narrative. How we do that is by humanizing the veterans that are being demonized by our justice system. We can take cases of veterans who have been deported. One, for instance, he has about 18 months of combat time in the invasion of Iraq, in Afghanistan, and was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, the deadly weapon in this case being a screwdriver that never left his pocket. He was deported for that crime. A crime which any lawyer that was consulted on it afterwards said it would have been a misdemeanor at best. He was never allowed to introduce his severe traumatic brain injury diagnoses, nor post-traumatic stress diagnoses. And it's not to be utilized as a form of getting out of punishment. But I think that it definitely provides a lot of context to the situation that this veteran was accused of providing or of doing harm in. If we look at it, based on what that veteran might have been going through, there is definitely forms of coping through substance use and abuse. There is a demonstrated inability to think clearly, right? So while we say, he chose the wrong way to go, we often don't take into consideration that they might not see all the options that are available to them because of the trauma that they are trying to process and cope with. So really by demonstrating that these are not bad people, right? Because they were deemed to be of good moral character when they enlisted into the military. Rather, they are people that are struggling in ways that they cannot find appropriate avenues to cope with. And I believe that really it is our duty to do what we can for helping not just the immigrant veterans, but veterans in general, to access some of those programs and really life-saving tools that they earned through their service to the country in order to strengthen our communities as a whole. And, really by having people like Miguel working and going to speak to these legislators, we're able to add that experience that isn't documented in any textbook into the framework of these bills and of these conversations. Otherwise, they're left out of the conversation.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for that. It's a great breakthrough. Thank you so much for all of the work that you've done. Only 3 years in. Can't wait to look forward towards the future and see what else can come forth. And you mentioned something. It comes directly from Miguel. First time here we have this breakthrough story. Now, Miguel, you experienced this, and to give back, you've become very involved with Green Card veterans. You are now serving as the council advisor with Green Card veterans. Do you want to talk to us a little bit more about your experience and how you felt about being able to?
Well,
You know,
yes,
be part
I'm part of the council since it started. Even when I was still in detention, and I spoke to Carlos, and they told me about the council. Of course, I'm part of it, and as an advisor, I can provide some insight that not anybody can talk about because I experienced it. I spent a year and a half in a detention center, going through the whole process, being deported. In the year and a half that I spent deported, I met about between 40 and 50 deported veterans. And we don't talk about that. We don't know the whole stories. We just look, there's a stigma that says, oh, they've been deported, so they're criminals. But just like Carlos said, this is not bad people. This is people that, one way or another, have service-connected disabilities that was never taken care of. And now, with the deportation, they lack the resources. So they're just pretty much stranded. And the year and a half that I spent down there, I was able to befriend and, kind of a part of the group. And who better than somebody that has lived that experience to come back and speak to those elected politicians, to those people in charge, and tell them the other side of the story. Not just the part of the deportation or the legal status, because you just see deported veteran and you see a file and you see their crimes or alleged crimes, but we're putting a face to it. You're putting the human part of it, and that's how I feel that I come in by sharing that story, those stories of those voiceless ones that are still left in deportation. And I wanted to point out that it's not deported veterans only in Mexico, but all over the world. There's deported veterans in India, Nigeria, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. It's everywhere. So this is a huge issue that we just kind of just swept under the rug, and now, as an advisor and being part of this council, it's not only to bring awareness, because I believe that there's a lot of awareness out there, but it's to push for change, and that's what we've been doing, and I'm very blessed to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. No soldier left behind. Thank you so much for that and for sharing that experience. Now, something else, you come back and now you feel like you have a social responsibility to give back and to help others and to advocate for others and to share your story and to share your experience. And together, this is what Green Card Veterans is doing. How can a regular person help?
Well, I think that it really depends on where you are. Here in
Visit
Chicago,
website.
Yes.
Please visit our website.
You can definitely get to our website, greencardvets.org.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow us on all your favorite social media platforms at Green Card Vets. But I think the biggest thing that people can do right now is find out, if there's deported veterans in your area. Try to get congressmen and senators to support any of the number of bills that are that have been introduced in this latest Congress. If you're in Chicago, please connect with us, and we will definitely love to have you at some of our future meetings and events. But I think the largest thing that people can do is try to get some support for the number of bills that have been introduced in the House and the Senate. We've been fortunate to be working very closely with Senator Duckworth here in Illinois, who has championed this issue. We got to spend Veterans Day last year with her in Tijuana, where she went to visit Hector Barajas' Veteran Support House, the bunker. And so with her, we're definitely working towards identifying veterans that have been deported. We want to not only identify them, but get them connected with the legal resources that they might need to come back. We want to connect them with the elected officials in whatever state that they are from, so that we can get their cases reopened in ways similar as we did with Miguel. So there are going to be a lot more ways to help over this coming year. So please follow us on social media and bookmark our website and see what kind of ways come up throughout the year that you would be able to get involved in.
Just
Miguel?
by communicating,
Yes, just
keeping the
communicating, reaching
conversations
out.
open.
Yes.
And if you'd really like to donate, there is a donate button on our website. We can definitely appreciate that, especially in terms of being able to start providing some legal resources to veterans where pro bono might not be readily available to them. And to continue advocating with different congressmen and senators. So we have fortunately or unfortunately been in D.C. Quite often over the last couple of years, and we would like to attribute a lot of our advocating to helping produce some bills that are on the floor and unfortunately have not gained much Republican support. We need those co-sponsors. So whoever gets a copy of this video, please get in touch with your senator and congressman and have them co-sponsor one of these bills.
Okay, and again, I want to remind everybody that Green Card Veterans LULAC is a nonprofit. And you are with us again tonight on the S.H.E Gallery show on CAN TV. We are here live. And S.H.E Gallery and CAN TV were able to work together, and in having the conversation, just bringing Carlos on the show and having a conversation, I said, how can I help? How can S.H.E Gallery help? And Carlos said, well, I can link you up with our fundraising team. And I've had the great pleasure of meeting with the entire crew from Green Card Veterans, with Bere. Thank you so much for all of your work, with Jesse, with Francisco, with Elva, with everybody that's worked so hard, volunteering their time, so much of their time and travels, in just helping push this mission forth, because it is quite important, as you can tell, dedicating so much time and had so much success in just 3 years. So again, we look forward to continuing to hear more about the support from both politicians. And a way that you can also help is by joining us for this fundraising event that we have. Please save the date for April 17th. We will be celebrating Miguel's birthday. And here we will also be announcing ways that you can also help others. And I know it's kind of hard to read, but again, you can visit our website. And here we were mentioning that veterans still need a lot of support and a lot of help, and how S.H.E Gallery and Green Card Veterans is coming together to help support this fundraiser that will take place again April 17th, 2020. Again, please keep in touch with us through our website, through our social media networks, and come join us, celebrate at Bar 10. Again, details will follow. Stay in touch, stay involved, learn of ways that you can volunteer, and just help take action. Thank you guys so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we leave?
You asked earlier, like, what can the regular person do? Just like you just said, get involved. It makes a difference. Yes, I had legal counsel. I had friends and community activists, but most importantly, I had the community. Chicago found out about this wrong, and they really rallied behind this issue, and that's the reason that I'm back, because of my community.
Thank you so much. And that is building unity, building community, having conversations, 3 strangers coming together and coming and welcoming you to join us April 17th for Carlos' celebration and learning more about how you can help your veteran. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.